Here's a simple way to stay connected on the go. Join KHQ on Facebook and Twitter and be a part of the conversation. Just like KHQ Local News on Facebook or follow us on Twitter before your next stop. Experience why more people follow KHQ Local News than any other station in the Inland Northwest. Be the first to know about breaking news, weather, and all the stories creating a social media swirl. Sign up, sound off, stay connected. KHQ Local News, right now.
Welcome to Let's Talk Spokane, where veteran host Kent Adams seeks out and discusses the latest on a variety of hot
Gabe Cohen from KHQ, upstart kid. I call you a kid, you know.
A lot of people do.
Well, at age 69, almost everybody is younger than me, okay? Although I had someone in here the other day that had just turned 87, so he made me feel young.
You seem to be doing pretty well for yourself, Ken.
Hey, so are you. You've brought us a number of great stories over the last couple of years here in Spokane. The fires out in remind me
Okanagan County,
yes,
Pateros, yes.
Right, and more than just the fire, the story of the people, and that really is something you like to do. You like to tell the story of people and what's behind things, right?
Yeah, well, that's what people connect with. That's how people want to understand the news, is because they want to feel why it matters, and that's why it matters.
Yes, good for you. Good for you. Recently, you did a special story. Now, when this happened 10 years ago with Shasta Groening,
Shasta Groening, yes.
It was big news in Spokane. It was even big news around the country. Before we went on here, you mentioned you even kind of remember a little bit at age 13 or 14.
Yeah, that's right. I was just a kid, but I remember the national headlines. I remember that name.
Yeah.
And that stuck with me. And then when I started here at KHQ, I was the North Idaho reporter. And then, of course, that community knows this story so well.
Yes.
So this region definitely does, but it hits so close to home in that area in North Idaho, in Coeur d'Alene.
Now, tell me about the genesis of doing this story recently and bringing everybody up to date. Was it your idea? Was it a staff idea? Was it? I mean, how does that work?
Well, it was my idea. I knew about Shasta's story.
Okay.
I knew that this year marked 10 years. And so my curiosity in doing my research on the story, once I got here, I did a lot more reading into it, into what had happened. And what I noticed was this: when Shasta returned to Coeur d'Alene, when Joseph Duncan brought her back, and they were found in that Denny's, that's where the story seemed to end. There was nothing I could find past really that day.
Or it really focused on him and his trials and so forth,
Absolutely,
right?
Absolutely, of course. Then you had the trial, but the focus on the family, on Shasta's story, it all kind of ended that day, or it seemed to. And what I realized was I had no idea who this girl had become. And I was interested, and so I sought her out. I found her on Facebook, actually. I wrote her a message, and, journalists, we do that all the time, especially with social media now. We're always trying to connect with different people. You never know what response you're going to get, if you're going to get a response. But that was something that struck me about Shasta. She responded so quickly. I sent her this long note. Within a couple minutes, she responded just, "Could you talk right now? Could you talk on the phone right now?"
Oh, wow.
We talked that night, and 2 days later, I was in a car heading down to the Boise area to meet with her.
Wow. You know, when I saw the picture and the promo that was done by the station leading up to that Thursday when you did the story on TV, I looked at the picture and I was kind of astounded, because the picture I have in my mind was her as an 8 or 9-year-old little girl. And I think we all had that until you brought us up to date.
And I think that's a big part of this story, the story we put together, this 10 years later piece, because Shasta talks a lot about those early years and being unable to break that image of that little 8-year-old girl that was almost frozen in time, as you said, frozen in the minds of everyone. So as she grew up, she always felt like that celebrity victim, that she'd always be that 8-year-old girl, and that's what drove her down a dark path and gave her some pretty dark years in there, very tough times. And only now in the past almost year at this point has she really turned her life around and found her own rebirth.
Right, right. As you look at talking to her, what did she say? How open was she to talk about those days?
Well, I wanted to be very sensitive, as
Yes,
you
of
always
course.
should be with anyone who's a survivor of something
Oh
like
my
that.
gosh, yes.
But when we went down there, I went down with photojournalist Tim Martin, who did a phenomenal job with
Absolutely.
the story.
Great.
He got it, he edited it, and he did a great job. But we discussed it in the car. Tim, as I said, I was a kid when this was all unfolding. Tim was working over at KXLY at the time,
Okay.
and he was there the night Shasta's family was found murdered. He was there
Ooh,
the day
okay.
Shasta was found at the Denny's, and he was there at that trial, at Joseph Duncan's federal trial. Every step of the way, he was there live blogging it. He saw every detail, and so this story has always resonated with him. It
Of
always
course.
hit close to home for him. And as we were going down there, we were discussing who would Shasta be today. We
Yes.
didn't know, because a lot of times I found in meeting people, not necessarily who have been through what Shasta has, because so few people have, but who
Yep.
have been through traumatic experiences, you often get extremes. You don't know what you're going to get from them, whether it's someone who's become very embittered by it, someone who still can't speak about it. And those are all very understandable responses to that kind of trauma. But what I found about Shasta was I was shocked by how open she was.
Right.
Every step of the way, I said, Shasta, if there's anything you don't want to talk about, that's fine. She'd respond, no, it's fine. Just ask me, and I'll give you an answer. And every
And
single
if I don't
question-
want to, I won't.
yeah.
Yeah.
But she wanted to talk about everything. She gave a response to Joseph Duncan, what she'd say today. She answered the tough questions about remembering her mom and her brothers and her mother's boyfriend, and she never shed a tear. You could sense the emotion, but you could also sense that this was something she had thought so much about.
Yes.
Maybe she hadn't opened up about it, talked about
I
it
was
in the
wondering
same
about
way.
that this might have really been one of the first opportunities to get that out
Yeah,
a little bit.
And not only that, but only over the past 9 months or so has she been living on her own down in southern Idaho. And I think this was also an opportunity not just to talk about it, but to talk about it sort of on her own, removed from every element of her previous life almost up here in Coeur d'Alene, where
Right.
she could finally be kind of free and open to react to it, respond to it, and talk about it how she wanted to, totally free of any other person, any other influence. When I was down there, it was just me and her. It was just us talking it through, and it felt very open.
Right.
And that's what I thought was very powerful about the piece.
Were you surprised as you sat there how open she really was?
I was, and not only how open she was, but how well spoken she was. How much you could tell she had processed it and
Yeah.
thought about it. And she talked a lot about Elizabeth Smart, the young woman
Yes.
who was kidnapped in Salt Lake City or near Salt Lake City.
Right.
And she talked about how Elizabeth Smart, in the years after her kidnapping, had become a voice for other survivors out there, wanting to help other people who had been through traumatic experiences. And Shasta talks about also wanting to be that voice. She says that she wants to help people who have been through things like that.
Wow. Okay. Well, and that's good for her. I mean, to be able to do that. How open was she about the incident at the house and family, and even the killing of her brother?
She was pretty open about it. She talked about how those are memories she'll never forget.
Right.
Now, she did not witness those slangs. Joseph
Okay.
Duncan had removed her from the home
Okay.
when he took the lives of her mother.
Okay. So she didn't see that afterwards.
She did not see that.
Okay.
Now, but
That's good because she doesn't have those awful memories. That
A-
part of it.
absolutely. But that was something that Tim Martin and I had discussed on the way down. Is we didn't really want to focus on the incident of 10 years ago. We
Okay.
didn't want that to be the story because everyone knows that story.
Yeah.
Everyone knows what happened. This region spent months reporting on that, discussing that. What we wanted the focus to be was who Shasta is 10 years later, what she lived in the weeks, months, and years after she was brought back to Coeur d'Alene, because that's what people never knew. People know through the court case, through the trial, through everything, what Joseph Duncan did. We didn't want him to be the focus. We wanted the focus to be who this young girl,
Good.
woman who she became.
Good.
You're listening to SpokaneTalksOnline.com, Spokane and North Idaho's business and community talk station.
To report unflinchingly and in-depth news, sports, and weather. 10 additional pages of entertainment every Friday in 7. Twice a week coverage of all things outdoors. At the table, on the go, in the moment, for as little as $1 a week. The Spokesman Review keeps you connected to the community whenever and wherever you choose. Your trusted partner for stories that matter for 131 years and counting. Visit spokesman.com and subscribe to the experience.
Do thoughts of strategic planning, succession planning, and organizational development make you see red? Actually, that's a good thing, because Associated Industries is proud to announce that Red and Associates is joining our family, which means enhanced business and consulting services for all of our members. It's just the latest step in our mission to help every aspect of your business. Associated Industries, for the challenges you see, and the ones you don't, and the ones that make you see red. Find out more at AIIN.com.
We are kids of all ages, learning about teamwork and friendship. The triumphs we experience aren't just about the final score. Rather than wins and losses, we learn, grow, and thrive. And when we play together and support each other, we become healthy, happy, and strong. Join YMCA Youth Sports and become part of something greater than a team. Call 777-YMCA today.
Gabe, thank you for coming in early, because I know you have a full day ahead. And once in a while, you even text me back or email me back, leave me alone, I'm getting ready for a deadline. But
every day,
yeah. And you do. You have to come up with a new story every day. I mean, welcome to doing the TV news, right?
It's a real grind. It is.
It is. It is. We appreciate all you've done. And this story about Shasta is an important one. And I remember when I heard that it was going to be on, I heard about a week ahead of time. I'm going. In fact, it was Neil Bowling who mentioned it to me. And I said, oh, good, because we've all wondered what has happened to our little girl, Shasta. And so to bring us up to date, I've had more comments, because we pushed it, of course, on Twitter and Facebook here and ran the promos and everything else. And I had more people who came in to be a guest that week talk about that and the fact that you were doing that story. And so it really was endearing, I think, to the community to have some kind of closure, if you will. And it's not closed, I understand that, but to know where she is at this point in her life and that she's recovering.
Yeah.
I mean, that is so important. I don't know how, with all that she went through, that she has come so far, and as you mentioned, the last year.
And I did not quite realize the emotional impact this story would have on this region. And
yes.
Of course, I knew how important Shasta's story was to everyone in this area, but I have never had people stop me on the street to
yes.
say, thank you for doing a
yes.
story. I've
yes.
probably had it happen a dozen times
right.
since
right.
this aired, and I think that is just the impact that this young woman had
yes.
on this community when she was a little girl. As you said, became everyone's daughter in that
yes.
moment, and so that's why it was that much more important to share it 10 years later.
Now, you've had the impact on the community. Gabe, what impact has it had on you?
I think she taught me a lot. Meeting Shasta, I really was stunned by how beyond her years she was, and how much she had experienced, and I think that that always sticks with a journalist, meeting someone who doesn't fit the mold of what you expect out of a quote-unquote victim.
Right, right.
And what I was saying before about what she's wanted to be, how she's wanted to impact the lives of other survivors. Well, I think she impacted a lot of lives, including mine, just being as open as she was. And it taught me a lot about pushing the conversation. I was almost scared to push that conversation when I first talked to her, because I wasn't sure.
Well, you're a human being.
Right.
Okay, I mean, you're a journalist, yes, but you also are a sensitive person.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it really amazed me, and it taught me a lot about what human beings can overcome.
Yeah.
Because she, as you learn watching our story, it hardly ends when she returns to Coeur d'Alene. It gets even darker at times, and she went through so much. And the fact that just in the last year she's turned her life around, and it's more about the attitude she has.
Yes.
It's the attitude that she has at the moment that really blew me away. That, you know what, everything's going to be okay. Sure, I still have hardships, but everything is going to be okay.
Right. Yeah. How long did you spend with her?
Well, I spent about just a full day with her.
Okay,
so
okay.
A whole
Because
bunch
I know
of
you
hours.
were in a studio or a place where you did the interview, and I
Right.
saw you walking and talking, and a chance to get some B-roll and all of that. But what one thing didn't make, that hit the cutting room floor, if you will, that you think she might like people to know, or that you remember, that just didn't make the story? Because obviously you've got reels of tape. Now, that's a bad term because we don't use tape anymore, but you know what I mean. You shot more than you can use.
Yeah, I think. I know she talked a lot about how excited she was to be a mother, but I think that is such a big part of her life right now. I mean, of course, any expecting mother, that child is going to be a big part of her life. But we centered this theme around rebirth and walking this new path. But she talks a lot, and that's something. If you look at the social media response, understandably, there are a lot of people who are commenting, "Well, this is an 18-year-old girl who's pregnant right now. Has she completely overcome this, or is this another hardship?" But I think, and this goes back to what I learned, that people cope in different ways.
Sure.
And life takes people down different paths, and that is where she wants to head. That is what she wants right now, and I think that she still has hardships. She's not financially well off right now. She and her fiance have been kind of struggling to make it work.
Okay.
I believe she just moved into a new apartment, so she's excited about that. But I don't think we got into the hardships that she's still experiencing as much as we probably could have, just because of a timing thing. But she...
But it sounds like, she's got the hardships a lot of young people have.
Absolutely.
But then a background that even makes life tougher. And to carry that, and to have the attitude that you showed us in your piece there. What an amazing young lady to come and be as successful as she is, even though there are some negatives and hardship and financial and all of that. We all have that, okay? But wow, that was really good to see. And she's happy about being a mother.
Absolutely.
This is her focus right now. And did you get a chance to meet the fiance?
I did not.
Okay.
He was actually off working that day. But
Okay.
But she seems very happy. She spends a lot of time with his family down there.
Oh, good.
He is from that area. And she's taking it one day at a time, which is another just important realization about life that Shasta kind of reminds us is that she has been through so much. She had 10 years marked by such dark, dark days.
Yes.
But it's amazing how quickly you can turn your life around if that's what you want. And you see that with her.
Yeah. Now, going to school, the high school and everything else that she went through down there, was she always known as Shasta, that girl?
Well, certainly she said she was up here for school.
Oh,
up in
okay,
Coeur d'Alene.
okay. Yeah, I remember her going to like Post Falls or Coeur d'Alene school
she
in
was-
grammar school and all of that. But
Yeah, so she was up here, and that's exactly what happened. She felt she was always
That girl.
Shasta, that girl, the victim. And she could never break that mold.
No.
And she talks about it in the piece, but when she was 12, 13 years old, she started drinking and then doing drugs. And And really what it was about, she says, is that older kids she began to spend time with, these 16, 17-year-old kids, didn't see her as the little victim. They saw her as Shasta the party girl. The girl, in her words, the girl who would get high with them.
Okay.
And party with them. And so I think that was her release. She felt free in those moments. And, of course, that's a very tough path for anyone to go down.
Yes.
And you are bound for disaster in those moments. But when it started, in her mind, it was her escape. That was her way of getting away from being that little girl.
Yeah. Oh, wow. What an experience. Okay, so what's next for her?
Well, she's starting college right now.
Oh, good,
she's
good.
starting some college classes. She just got a new apartment, and she's ready to be a mother. And I think, especially right now, she has a lot of support. That's what we've seen from just the Facebook response. I think, honestly, she fell off the radar for a long time, and people wouldn't have known how to help her. But ever since we did the piece, I mean, we've seen GoFundMe's start up for her to help her with baby shower and things she might need for her child, and just the amount of response from the people of the Inland Northwest who are saying, we will help you in any way possible. So I think she is in good hands. She also will have a trust fund that kicks in when she's 25 years old, I believe, of money raised when she was just a little girl.
Okay, good.
Which should help her with some of this. But this will always be an issue, and she talks about that. This will always be something she'll need support for. This won't go away, but it's all about being on the right path and taking it one day at a time and having what you need to get you to tomorrow. And I think right now she has that.
Good. Well, thank you for doing this story, because until it was mentioned to me a few weeks ago that you were doing this story, I hadn't thought of her for a while, but immediately visions came up of that story, which was covered immensely by all of the stations here in town. And as I mentioned earlier, Gabe, folks that came in that knew about the story that was going to appear on KHQ, the reaction was, oh my gosh, I'm glad he's doing that story. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for coming to Spokane and having the foresight to follow up on a story that was done during your youth. Mm-hmm. You weren't here, you didn't live through it, but to bring that back to us is a gift. And so thank you very much.
Well, I to be honest, I'm not sure I quite knew what I was stumbling upon when I started it, but boy, it really turned out to be something that meant a lot to everyone, including me.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And so what's up next for Gabe Cohen here in Spokane, huh?
Well, we have a story that we're working on right now that I can't talk too much about, but let's just say we're continuing to move forward. I think we have a very exciting piece that's going to be coming up in a couple weeks. So a little more mystery-esque. So we're going in a different direction, but I think it'll be something that'll.
Okay, well we'll watch for it, and you'll let us know, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, and it's probably a team effort a bit.
Yeah, I'm working with a photographer on it, but as my news director says, think Dateline. So we're gonna have fun with it. I'm excited.
Boy, someone who's thinking NBC now, right? Yeah. Remember, don't watch it alone. Isn't that what they promote?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Gabe Cohen from KHQ. Thank you very much. We appreciate all that you're doing. We thank you for coming down and telling the story.
Thank you, Kent.
Let's Talk Spokane is produced in Spokane, Washington by SpokaneTalksOnline.com, which is solely responsible for its content. Ask us a question, recommend a guest, and hear this program again online anytime at SpokaneTalksOnline.com. Thanks for listening.